Welcome back. Now that you've completed Module 1 and 2, it is time for you to complete Module 3. Module 3 is about VA education benefits. Our discussion topics are to review federal, state, VA benefits, education benefits, and also talk about how they intermingle and you can use them together or opposite of each other. Let's start with breaking down our federal VA benefits and then breaking down state VA benefits. If you'll notice in this presentation, I put the type of benefit across the top here in this column, your basic eligibility, your application time frame, your months of eligibility, and then who can actually use this benefit. So let's start with Chapter 30 GI Bill. This is your traditional GI Bill. This is the one where you paid $100 a month for 12 months and received an honorable discharge. You have 10 years from the date of last discharge to use it, and here's a hint to your National Guard and Reserve soldiers who recently went on deployments but got out of active duty maybe years prior. When they come home from their deployments downrange, their 10-year discharge date time frame for application time frame restarts from that last date of discharge. And then they get 36 months worth of eligibility, which means 36 months worth of benefits. And primarily it's a veteran that can receive this, but there are those rare occasions. When I say rare, I mean I saw 1 in 15 years of working as a veteran service officer, where a spouse can use the benefit if it's transferred to them while the individual veteran is in the military and did it as part of a re-enlistment activity. Then we move on to Chapter 31 VOC Rehab. This is for our disabled veterans. The VA typically likes you to be 20% or greater, but you can do it with 10% service connection. You have 12 years from the date of your original service connection, or I've actually seen VOC Rehab where they'll do it from the date of your increase, or if you add an additional service-connected disability, such as a secondary issue like we talked about before. Then you get months of eligibility. It's 48 months worth of eligibility. And the disabled veteran is the only one who can use this benefit. Now there's another benefit that's still on the books called Chapter 32, VEAP, Vietnam Era Education Assistance Program. This is for those folks who did not participate in the Montgomery GI Bill, but were post-Vietnam era veterans, and they participated in the VEAP program by putting some money in. Again, very rare program. In all my years of doing this, I have never seen anybody use the program, but it is in existence, and you do have 10 years from last discharge, and you do have 36 months of eligibility, and the veteran is the only one who uses it. Now let's get to the big one. The big one is the post 9/11 GI Bill. This is Chapter 33. Had to serve 90 days of aggregate active duty, or if you did 30 continuous days and were medically discharged, and you also have to receive an honorable discharge, and you have to serve after 9/11/2001, then you can qualify for this benefit. So let me say that again. 90 days of aggregate active duty with an honorable discharge, or 30 days of continuous active duty with a medical discharge, and your service is after 9/11/2001. Now the application time frame is 15 years from last discharge. Some people would argue that because the post 9/11 GI Bill did not come into existence till 2009, that the 15 years starts from the date of 2009 or later, depending on your discharge. It's worth a shot if you have somebody who was discharged in, say, 2006, 5, 4, that type of thing. 36 months worth of benefits. And here's the big thing. It could be the veteran or the dependent, but it had to have been transferred to the dependent prior to the veteran leaving their military service. Now, let's talk a little bit about some of the other federal benefits. Up to this point, I've been talking primarily of the veteran and active duty type veteran, but there are other benefits for other individuals within the military or outside of the military. One of those in particular, Chapter 35, Dependents Education Assistance. That is for the dependents who are a spouse or child of a permanently and totally disabled veteran, a veteran who died because of service-related disability, or a service member who died while in active duty. There is some application timelines, and they change, as you can see here, between spouses and children. The months of eligibility is 45 months, and the recipients is the dependent spouse or child. In addition to other federal benefits that are for non-active duty folks, are the two types of benefits that are for our drilling soldiers. One is Chapter 1606, which is called the Montgomery GI Bill Selected Reserve. You have to be a drilling National Guard or reservist, and you completed your initial active duty for training. However, though, on the application timeline, it's only available while in drilling status. You get 36 months worth of benefits, and the only person who can receive it is a service member. Now, for a period of time, if you were a National Guard or reservist who was called to or ordered active duty in response to a war or national emergency declared by the President or Congress for 90 days or longer since 9/11, and received an honorable discharge for that period, you could use Chapter 1607 Reserve Educational Assistance Program. However, though, you'll find that most people are not using that now because it was phased out as of November 25, 2015. There are a few that remain eligible because they were using the benefit and had entitlement to the benefit prior to that date. But again, only while drilling and or on IRR status. It's 36 months of benefits, and it's only for the service member. Now, there are a couple other benefits I'd like to tell you about that are not VA specific, but are VA federal benefits or education benefits for other individuals. One of those is the Active Duty Military Tuition Assistance Program. It's available both to National Guard reserves and active duty folks. There are some Air Guard units that don't get to participate in the Military Tuition Assistance Program. My suggestion to you is to have your individual check in with their education officer to find out how it works. But they have to complete initial active duty for training, and they have to have been in the military for 12 months. It's only available while they're on active duty or in the National Guard, and it only pays for 16 semester hours per year at $250 a credit hour. Please note, if they're going to a term school, it'll pay less. It is about $167 a term hour, and it's only for the service member. There's another benefit that is for spouses called the Military Spouse Career Advancement Account, or commonly known as the MyCAA. I haven't seen very many people use this benefit, and I'm not going to go into great detail about it because there's a lot of information right there for you. Just know that if you have a spouse of a veteran, of a service member who's on deployment or on current Title X orders, or is part of some type of deployment that is in support of the conflicts that we're currently involved in, they may receive a max benefit of up to $4,000, which is payable $2,000 annually. Again, not very many people use this particular benefit. And then there's a Marine Gunnery Sergeant David Fry Scholarship. A spouse or child of a service member who died while on active duty. The spouses and children, they must apply within 15 years of death or child's 18th birthday. This is a great benefit. It's very similar to the post 9/11. There are a little bit of caveats to it, but it is a very good benefit. Now, we're going to move to state benefits for a little bit, because there are some benefits that you can use while using your active duty or National Guard Reserve GI Bills. For instance, somebody who's getting Chapter 35 Dependents Education Assistance, the dependent benefit for being a dependent of a severely disabled individual or somebody who died because of a service-connected issue or a service-connected disability, or an individual who received a Purple Heart, a veteran who received a Purple Heart due to conflict after 9/11, their dependents could receive a tuition waiver at any of the community colleges and or universities of the state of Oregon. That particular waiver is called the Oregon Dependents Tuition Waiver. Now for spouses, there's no time frame when it comes to application time frame. However, the max benefit is a master's degree. Children, it's 18 to 24 years old. There are some caveats around if a child applies for the undergraduate bachelor's degree program and they get into the master's degree program within 12 months of graduating, they can use the graduate program past their 24th birthday. But the biggest thing is they have to apply for the benefit prior. The months of eligibility, it's up to the first bachelor and or master's degree. And when it comes to recipients, it's the spouse or child. Then there's this great program for our National Guard and reservists who were deployed downrange. It's called the Voyager program. It only works at state universities. And it basically says any Oregon resident who served the nation as a member of the National Guard or Reserves on active duty capacity in a combat zone since September 11, 2001, they will get, there's no time frame to apply, but they will get up to their first bachelor's degree paid for by that university. Basically, it's a waiver. And it's only for the service member or the veteran. Then there's National Guard Reserve tuition assistance. We talked about this and we covered it when we talked about the active duty folks. There's no difference here except for that it's just referred to as the National Guard and Reserve Tuition Assistance Program. Now, I will tell you that there's some legislation out there that has basically helped veterans over the last few years to access their benefits better in the state of Oregon. And here's some pieces of those legislation. I won't go into great detail on them, but the biggest thing you must know is that in current day standards, if a brand new student with the post 9/11 GI Bill or any GI Bill walks into your school and they are interested in receiving in-state tuition and fees instead of out-state tuition and fees, there's a significant number of bills that would say that we are required to do that. That is at at public schools. Private schools, they have a different policy because they're not governed by state government rules not in this way, unless there's another rule. Okay. Well, that's it. Any final thoughts or questions? Okay. Well, I think you did great. I'm going to move you on to Module 3.8. And what I'm going to do in 3.8 is I'm going to show you how to use a tool that will help you decipher which benefit the veteran or spouse is interested in using and how they can use that particular benefit. So,